Left side of your offensive line, how'd they grade out? They looked good to the naked eye. How'd they look when you watched the film?
Yeah, both graded out champions, and I thought they played their best down the stretch, in particular that last drive. So that's good. Should, again, keep saying this, build confidence as we move forward, both those guys being in that spot. So new challenge this week. That game's behind us. Time to focus on Purdue.
On the D-line real quick, is there any update on Tyleek? And beyond that, can you just get into how well Caden McDonald is playing up front?
Yeah, K-Mac really stepped up for us, and we're hoping that he can continue to give us more and more snaps. But great to see him with the game on the line. I think it was the third down play where he really got a lot of movement on the center, and that made a huge difference in on that play especially. But he was in there for all those plays 2 weeks in a row. So big spot for him to step up in. So we're going to continue to try to find ways to get him on the field. And Tyleek's doing good. He's day-to-day. We'll see how he is when he comes in.
Tony Girdman, Buckeye Huddle.
With the defensive tackle situation, what has Edric Houston done to get involved there?
Yeah. Well, he's got a very bright future ahead of him. I think he's going to be a really good football player. Hasn't played a lot inside, so he's learning that position. But I think that when you look at how he projects out, we got one here now. He's got to keep growing. He's got to keep learning from Ty and Tyleek, and the intricacies of playing inside, because it is different than playing on the edge. But he has the size, the power, the strength, the toughness to play inside for us.
So do you think he's going to stay there? And what was his response to the position?
He really embraced it. I think he sees what this could be for him. Not saying that maybe down the road we wouldn't move him back outside, but I think he realizes when you go from being a very athletic and strong defensive end and now moving inside, now you become elite as a three technique because you have that speed and quickness, and he does have the power to hold the point of attack.
Over to the right, Don Ferry, WBNS.
Coach, the first rankings come out that matter. Will you pay attention to that, and just any thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, just focused on Purdue. That's all that matters, and rankings right now for us, again, don't mean anything because you got to keep winning. And that's for us, every time we walk off the field on a Sunday, no matter what happened the game before, that game is over with. It's on to Purdue. I think Purdue, their record may not say it, but they've been playing good football. And, we've got to come in and play physical in this game, and we got to continue to build on what happened last week. And that's what today's going to be all about in a Tuesday practice, because, whatever the rankings are, they are. As we've always said, the ones that matter are the ones at the end of the year.
It was obviously a huge win over there. Loved the celebration afterwards. I didn't know you were such a great dancer. As far as what that does for the confidence, because it's one thing to say it, but to go do it, and the way you were able to drive down the field and close out that game, what's it do for your club's confidence?
I think we know we can do it. It's been 2 weeks in a row we've done that now. Do I think that we should be in that situation in that game? No. I think our execution has got to be better this week, for where we need to go and what we want to do. But we also know the game of football takes twists and turns along the way, and you're going to find yourself in games. There was pluses and minuses on both sides, positive plays on both sides, negative plays on both sides. But you got to win the game in the fourth quarter, and a big part of that is being physical, so that you can control the game at the end of regulation. And like we did, we milked the clock there with 5 minutes plus to go in the game. And I've been in games before where in 5 minutes there's about 4 or 5 different possessions. You just go back and forth, and it turns into a shooting match where it's 35-28 or 48-42. And this one here, we ran the ball and milked the clock and finished the game that way. And that's what this game needed. You never know what's going to come up next. If we don't get to stand on defense, offense has to go out and get a score. So whatever it takes to win the game is what we got to do. But it all comes down to how physical we are running the football and stopping the run.
Dave Holmes, WSYX.
Will should be your stable force, being such a veteran as your quarterback. A couple turnovers there. I know the one at the goal line's a bit fluky in the way that thing came out. The touchback rule is what it is. Any concerns, though, as far as Will trying to protect the football in big games moving forward?
Oh, it can't happen. It can't happen. We got to take care of the football. And the first play, he got fooled a little bit in terms of what he saw, and so that unfortunately sometimes like that those things will happen. But we can't fumble the ball inside the 10-yard line. Just can't do it. So we were, like he said, we were fortunate in the game because of the play of so many guys down the stretch, and it turned into a 4-quarter game because of that. And we take care of the ball better. It doesn't have to be that way. So he knows that. And, we're going to keep hammering at home this week, and a huge emphasis on execution and taking care of the football.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, what did you like from what Carson gave you guys at left guard, and what did he show you in the last couple of weeks that made you guys think he was ready after really not playing all this year?
Yeah, we looked at him during, the preseason. He was out with illness. He was playing backup center. We moved him to guard. We felt like at that time, Tegra gave us more at right guard, and with Donnie at left guard, Seth was, solidified at center. So, we kept Carson right there at center at the time. Since, Donovan got moved out, we felt like there was a hole there that we needed to fill. And, we had a couple different options there and some good options. But in this game, we felt like experience was the right thing to go with. And, after watching the film, he stepped up in a big way and showed us that he can play guard. And so we're going to continue to go with Carson. And, we saw what we saw on film, and now he's got to keep building on it.
Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Right, obviously, Carson giving you that boost is helpful because it answers one question. I'm curious about the last week with Donovan and the decision to move him to tackle for a kid that's played guard for 3 years, has a lot of NFL prospects, etc. How was the conversation with him about taking that risk and moving out there? How did he handle it post-game? How did he handle it, and how does it feel different after the game?
I think anytime you're making a move like that in a big game and going against a high-end player like Carter is, there's a lot to process there, but he never flinched at all. He never thought twice about it. He embraced it. I think, Justin did a great job of preparing him, in 1 week. Now, he had been getting reps out there in practice, but it's not the same as preparing to play in a game, especially when you're on the silent count, especially against a great player like Carter. And so, we really did tailor the game the best we could around that. There was a couple third downs. We just had to call it and play it, and we did help him with the cadence that one time, and then Carter got us, on the other ones. But I thought Donnie absolutely just fought his tail off and played physical the whole time and wore those guys down and embraced a new role in a tough spot. So I think he can be a very good tackle. I mean, just watching his athleticism, his length, the way his feet move. He can play good tackle for us. Now we got to keep getting him the reps and keep getting more and more of the experience of being out there in confidence. But he's showing now that he can play both positions. So I think is only going to help him.
The 4th and 2 in the second quarter from midfield, where it's a risky play call up there. You risk giving momentum back to Penn State at midfield. To call that play to Jelani, what had you seen out of him in the last couple of weeks to put him in that spot? Because it seemed like a player who maybe hadn't found his footing.
Yeah, those are not easy decisions. But you gotta, in that moment, I felt like we had run the sneak before. We wanted to try to get Will on the perimeter. They did a nice job of kind of sniffing it out, but Will continued to keep the play alive. We didn't think it would get all the way to Jelani, who was actually the last read in the progression. We had a tailback in the flat. We had Jeremiah on the over. And then here comes Jelani on the side view mirror, which I don't think we threw all week. So for those guys to do that, and like I said the other day, I think he got 3 catches and 3 drops on one play, Jelani Sutterman, on that play. I mean, it was just one of those plays you got to make, and he did. And but his sideline was excited for him. But I think when you look at Jelani, you see somebody who has a tremendous amount of talent. He's growing every day. He's maturing every day. When he's consistently doing his job and knowing what he's doing, you see it. And I think that's been the thing that's held him back a little bit. But he's making those improvements now, and the more he can build trust in the staff and making a big play like that in a big spot certainly does a lot for him.
Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Brian, for Carson, since he didn't play in that Cotton Bowl, what growth have you seen from him really since that Michigan game last year now that makes you think this can be a consistent step for him?
Carson has toughness. Carson has athleticism. Carson's smart. And I think after watching the film and maybe not taking on as much of the stuff in terms of making all the calls and everything like that, that maybe having Seth there next to him and Donnie over here next to him allowed him to focus on his job and not, be worried about all the different things that happen. He can go play football, and that's what he did. So I think there's a lot of growth and maturity there emotionally.
Obviously, you don't want to pigeonhole him into it being a guard or center right now. But
Right.
You talk about not having the responsibility of making all the calls. Being guard, being next to Seth, seeing him do everything, how does that help him, whether he's injured as a guard?
I think you'd have to ask him, but from my point of view, having Seth in there certainly has built the calmness isn't the word, but a confidence. They're much more sure of themselves in there, and Seth gets everybody on the same page, but also talks to them about how we're going to do things, in terms of footwork, about hand placement, about the double teams, and I think that's been great for Carson to see that. When you think about Carson's, first couple years here, I don't think we ever expected Luke to leave after 3 years, and he did, and kind of left a hole there. So Carson got forced into action a year early. Another year under Luke, and seeing Luke operate for another year as a senior would have gone a long way, and that's usually the ideal situation for a center. Carson got forced into action, sooner than we have liked, but now he's got a chance to see Seth work, and I think that's really going to help him in his future. And you saw it there on Saturday, and like you said, whether it's guard or center, I think he's in a better place now, and certainly going out there and doing it on the field, leads us to believe that's the case.
Stefan Krajcnik, Cleveland.com.
So follow up on the offensive line there, you guys, celebrated for the guys as the offensive players of the game. What more do you think you could see from Tyra kind of moving forward to, have better performances?
Yeah, we try not to do that too much in terms of putting out the grades. I mean, he was close, but the grades are the grades, and you got to grade out a champion in order to get player of the game. But we thought he played his tail off. He played really, really hard. Just a couple things in there that we got to clean up. And this is not a feel-good situation. Either you grade out over 80% or you don't. And he was right there. But we were real with the grading, and doesn't take away from the effort and what he did. And we definitely called him out in the meeting and made sure everybody understood that he was right there and gave a great effort and was part of the offensive line. So when you're grading, you're looking at assignment, you're looking at technique.
Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Will Howard, when he makes mistakes, he seems to move on from them pretty well, at least when talking to him after the game. That seems to be something that he really has. Is that
Better than me.
Is that just wiring in a guy? Is that something you guys can coach into someone to move on to the next play? Do you bring sports psychologists into the situation? Have you seen a guy like him that moves on that quickly? Or does he?
I mean, I know he does. He definitely does. He's got a knack for that. And we talk a lot about. There's a fine line of you make a mistake and it's like, let's just move on to the next thing. Well, hold on, we just have a major problem here. So there's that fine line there. And so what we try to do in practice, and I try to do, is whether it's a quarterback, the kicker, the left guard, or the corner, is make it hard for them in practice when they do make a mistake. I mean, just get all over them so that they feel what that's going to be like in a game, and then you watch to see how they respond. If that play bogs them down for the rest of practice, then we got some growing up to do here. And so we try to do that in practice, but Will's not somebody who's been in the program for a long time, so I can't sit here and say that any of the coaching staff has any credit for that. This is something that Will's had, and whether he earned that or learned about this when he was in high school or gained it from being at Kansas State, you'd have to ask him. But that's something that we all try to do, And again, whether it's a corner getting beaten a goal ball, you got to, like Davis, and the way he came back after getting that that completion on him, and they did call the hold on him, to come back and make that play. That's what you have to do in these types of games. And I will say that I do feel right now in the middle of the season, probably more than in years past, that we've been tested more. Our players have been tested more, the team's been tested more, so that we're a little bit more resilient than maybe in the past. And we played against teams or had games where we found ourselves in games that were a little bit lopsided, and you don't really get tested. You don't really get put into some of those tough situations. So we're counting on that to be a difference.
Are you concerned at all with Seth snaps? I saw during the game there were some low ones, and Will at one time kind of tried to calm him down, I think. I don't know if that's nitpicking or have you seen anything?
No, we want very, very accurate snaps. It makes a big difference, but I think he's been accurate with them. I thought he handled the environment. I thought the fact that our offensive line had 0 false starts, 0 holding calls was big in the game. I mean, that's what we needed. We needed a clean game. And so there's a lot going on there. And as you know, with the silent cadence, you kind of saw we were tapping and then moving our head. And the head movement is so that the offensive line can then realize, okay, the ball's about to be snapped and anticipate that. And, I didn't realize it, but if you ever try to just like kind of move your head quick and then snap the ball, I mean, you can get dizzy quick. You can almost feel like you have vertigo. And so it's not easy. It's not. And I thought Seth handled himself well, and handled the environment well overall.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Ryan, Chip seemed like he was at his best on Saturday. What were your thoughts on the game that he called, and were there moments throughout the game where you thought to yourself, man, what a call there?
Yeah, I mean, we all work hard putting the game plan together, and I thought he called a good game. I thought he had patience. I'm not always the most patient. I think he's more patient than I am. And I think, he understood that, we needed to establish the run in that game and be physical. And, I think he did that in the game. And then when it was time to call some things that put guys in conflict, I thought they were well designed. And in those plays, man, they take a lot of work. Whether it comes from the design of the play early in the week, then it comes to, how we're going to rep them, the scout team look, the protection. I mean, there's just so much that goes in, like the one play to Emeka. I mean, that took a lot of work. And meetings, walkthroughs, corrections the next day, just to get to that, to get to be a competitive excellence. Then you got to get the right coverage, So a lot of things came into play, and even just the strain by Donovan on that play, just to give enough to push that, defender off, to give Will one more second to flip his hips to get the ball thrown. So, but that's what it takes in terms of execution. Those plays were well executed, and we need more of that. And we got to be clean and simple so our guys can play fast. But I do think he called a good game, yes.
Real quick, Carson Tans, when we talk about that experience and the decision to go with him, how much of that is experience just in games, and how much of that was experience in atmospheres like that? He's been in atmospheres like that, so he wouldn't be overwhelmed by the moment.
That was what we were counting on, yeah. And I do feel like Carson was practicing better, but I can't sit here and tell you that there was a whole bunch in practice that, put him ahead of anybody else. But then when he had the opportunity, that's life. He grabbed it. But now where are we going from here? Again, the Penn State game's over. Like we gotta worry about Purdue, and we gotta keep moving forward. So, now we'll see kind of how things go as we move forward. But he showed he can do it, and again, I hope that builds confidence for him as he moves forward.
Bill Landis, Kings of the North.
Ryan, one of the Penn State offensive linemen said after the game that he felt like your D-line was doing things, particularly against the run, that they hadn't seen on film before, some stunting and things of that nature. And it does just look like the last 2 weeks there have been some noticeable differences with structures of the defense, things like that. Where are you, I guess, in putting on the field some of the conversations you guys had coming off of the Oregon game? How has that looked to you over these last 2 games?
I mean, it's looked the way that we've wanted it to look. We almost, kind of a goofy word, but like re-engineer the defense. We had to almost start from scratch after the Oregon game. What I mean by that is not like, scrap everything, but like, okay, what are the base foundations of what we're trying to get done? Who are our best players? We got to put our best players in a position to be successful. What are teams, scheming us up, in terms of what are they looking at? And, you start going through that process, and you almost have to kind of knock it down and rebuild it a little bit. Now, to the naked eye, there's probably not a lot out there that you're really noticing, but there's significant things that are going on that I think are giving our guys confidence. I think we're doing a better job of putting our guys in a position to be successful. I think we're getting lined up better. So we got to keep building on it, though. I mean, there's a lot of football left, and we've already put a lot of football on film. So we got to keep upgrading. And there's that line of, doing what you do well and being able to play really fast, and then making sure that you have enough change-ups so guys can't, nail you down.
The re-engineering word you use, I'd imagine that's only possible if you have veteran players who can handle those kind of things. Like how much of the key has that been as you change things a little bit?
But it wasn't, that's what I'm saying, I guess. It wasn't like, hey, we're redoing all of this. It's like, let's just trim all this out of here and just focus on these things right here. These are the best things we do right now, and then kind of go off and have the one-offs from there. So, like, again, you didn't all of a sudden start to see, a 3-down front, and, so it wasn't like that. It was just really cleaning up some of the communication, how we do things, putting the right guys in the right spots. But, it doesn't take much to be a little bit off. and I think that, we're moving towards where we want to be. And, there's going to be really good offenses coming at us here soon. By the way, I think Purdue's offense is playing well. I think both quarterbacks are talented. They do a good job on offense. So, if our guys think that, they're just going to go out there and play this Saturday, they're wrong. I think, they're a much better team than their record shows. So we got to have a great week of practice and keep growing. And, if anybody in this building here is thinking about last week, then they're distracted, and that can't happen.
Adam King, WBNS.
Kind of building off that real quick with the defense, how much, you said you wanted to be more involved in meetings and hands-on, how much do you think that's helped in kind of the re-engineering and changing a little bit?
I think we have a really good system in place. I think we have really good coaches. I do think that maybe just being in there and being a little bit more systematized in terms of, here's what we're thinking on first and second down. Here are some thoughts I have. How do we tie this all together? How do we put our best players in place? What are we thinking here on third down? What are the first few calls in the red zone? And just, making sure I got a good feel for that, and then giving just a little bit of feedback, not a lot. I don't want to bog them down, but a little bit of feedback on what I'm seeing as an offensive coach, to make sure that, they know, not only all in that room together, when they leave, they're all on the same page, but I think the communication has been good, and I think, I do think at least being in there has helped. Talking to the coaches and making sure we're all on the same page.
Going back, you called it a crossroads game against Penn State. There were things said after the Nebraska game, after the Oregon loss. There was, obviously a big game looming in Happy Valley. You guys win that game. How have you seen the energy from the week before kind of shift now in this place with everything now in front of you?
Yeah, we'll find out today how we do it, in our 2:30 team meeting, and how we do it practice, and where we go to Purdue. That's it. Was it a good win? Yeah, it was a good win, but it's just allowed us an opportunity to go chase our goals. That's all it's done. We knew we had to go do that, and we knew when we looked at the schedule going to Oregon, to Penn State, were going to be two great road opportunities for us. We didn't get the first one, we got the second one, so that was good, but a lot of football ahead of us, and that game's behind us now.
Hey, folks, I'm going to ask if we can try to keep it to one question, or we're going to run out of time. Far left, Joe Nugent, WCMH.
Because Jeremiah Smith is off to such a great start, and he scored a touchdown in every game before this one, from your perspective, what do you make of the fact that he actually didn't score a touchdown?
We had a chance, we just didn't connect on it. Yeah, we wasn't for a lack of trying, but he is off to a great start, and I thought even for a freshman in both of these two environments, he didn't flinch at all. And I think now that we're in mid-year, he's become a veteran player. He's not really a freshman anymore in my eyes.
Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach. The last drive, when I asked about that, the first play, you're on the 1 yard line, and you got to get it out of the shadow of your end zone to avoid a safety and give them the ball back. That play ends, and the quarterback and all five of the offensive linemen are together at the 5 yard line. You could have had 2 or 3 of them get there, but everybody got there and shoved Penn State back. Just how important was it to start it by taking away the risk of the safety and then going from there?
Yeah, that was it. We're backed up on the 1 yard line, and we got to bang it out. We got to get that first down. Not only do you got to get past the 5 because of the backed up punt, but you got to get that first down. You got to get it out of there, and we know there's going to be a ton of guys in the box, and it's just going to come down to running through the extra guy and making sure you get movement up front. But to see the offensive line jump up and fist pump, and Will get the thing out, I think, to the 4 or 5 yard line. That's what we needed right there in that moment. And the huddle was like that, and then in the next play, what we're running, getting vertical and getting downhill, and it started with the offensive line, but other running backs ran hard too. But that's got to be who we are. That doesn't matter if we don't do it again next week. It's got to be the same thing. But good to see us finish the game that way.
Jeff Gilbert, Press Pros.
Coach, I know you didn't get to the leave no doubt part of this game, but
right.
In terms of the way the new playoff structure is and everything, how much does that matter in retrospect anymore when style points aren't really as big a deal as they used to be? Is a win a win?
Yeah, a win is a win. And I was thinking about that a little bit this week is, with us huddling now and with everything going on, it's a different style of game. again, I don't remember finishing a game with 5 some odd minutes on the clock, and that was it. I mean, the game was over. We milked it out, and we had some longer drives, and we're not snapping the ball at 20 seconds, so the number of plays are way, way down. It's almost more like an NFL style of game nowadays because you're huddling. So yeah, the number one key is turnovers, rushing yards. All these situations become more and more critical, and we didn't do a good job in the red zone. It almost cost us the game. And so the situational football becomes more and more important. But yeah, I mean, these games are going to be that way because, we're huddling now and a lot of teams are huddling now. And so, I just think that, the game has changed a little bit in terms of that. Certainly much different than it was, 5 years ago when it was just back and forth and high scoring games. So efficiency and execution are all-time high.
Andy Anders, 11 Warriors.
You talked several times now about the goal line stand, and you talked about defending an inch of grass there. But just what goes into, from your eyes, a goal line stand, and what is important for getting that sort of a stop? Because obviously you had 2 of them on Saturday.
Well, it starts with the guys up front. Yeah, it starts with K-Mac and Hero and Ty and JT, Jack. I mean, those 5 guys holding the line right there. And then it's this next level of guys. It's Cody, it's Sonny, those guys. And then, as the pile is there, I mean, you got to push that pile back. You got to drive it back. I felt like in the 4-minute drill on offense, we were pushing the pile one way. And I thought even in the goal line stand, we were holding our ground right there and pushing the pile. It's just a mindset, that, we got to go win this game. And, to get 2 stops inside the 5-yard line in this game was a huge difference.
Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, you talked about Caleb and his intelligence taking meetings to the field and all that. I think some people just look at the stats and say he's not having the year he had at Alabama last season, and understanding it's a different defense. But does Saturday show exactly what you're talking about, where he's taking away a guy like Tyler Warren? He's making plays. It's kind of the culmination of things with him.
Yeah. No, he's all over the field. He's having a huge impact on our defense, and they had some huge tackles in the game, some huge plays in the game, and he's a huge part of our defense. Yep.
Austin Ward, podcast.
Ryan, you mentioned that shot to Jeremiah that was just fractionally off. There was another to Carnell. Yeah. I think the first blush instinct is always to just look at the quarterback. When you evaluated those 2 plays, what could be done, not just by Will maybe, to execute those?
Carnell did a great job off the line of scrimmage, got behind the defense. The cornerback slipped a little bit, and there really wasn't anybody there. And, Will, in that moment, just needs to keep the ball a little bit more inside. And Carnell made a great catch, but, kind of landed out of bounds. And then on the second one, I think Jeremiah felt like, the safeties were so deep that the ball wasn't coming his way. And, we tell Will, if he's anywhere near the depth of the safety, just launch it as far as you can. That's what happened. So, he just has to stay with it. And, but you're right. Those are 2 missed opportunities that could have been much different.
You referenced that earlier, there were pros and cons,
yes,
that you could have not been in that game. Those are the ones you're thinking about, the turnovers. The conversation with Will then, if these are 4 opportunities that change things.
That's it. That's it. That's why, execution, we got to be efficient. We got to execute. I think the mentality and the physicality and the toughness was all there on Saturday. That's it. And in the end, that's what won the game. And so that's good. But, it doesn't need to be that way if we're executing better and cleaner and taking care of the football and those things. So you can do both. They're not mutually exclusive. So looking to combine all those as we head into the back half of the season.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Follow up on Tegra from earlier. Do you feel like he's, firmly that starting right guard for you guys at this point, or are you still looking at mixing Austin in there?
Yeah, no, Austin's ready to go, and he would get some reps, but Tegra's our right guard right now.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Yeah, Ryan, at times Justin Fry's taken some heat the last couple of seasons. Just how validating to see the way the line played on Saturday? I know it's just one game, but for him, for Justin, how validating was that? And then for you, for trusting in the process here?
Yeah, a big step in the right direction for sure. And if we can keep building on this, then yeah, that'd be a heck of a deal. And I think, it's staying after it and being resilient, and that's what it's going to take, And I think now, there's a confidence coming out of it. Like, okay, we just did this. This is who we can be. But it's no good if we don't do it again this week.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Another question about Will. I know what you like about him. There are a lot of things to like about him, but you also talked about the things that went wrong against Penn State. This team is obviously loaded. How confident are you that he is the quarterback who can take you to the championship level?
Yeah, I think what you saw at the end of the game, you know, made a difference in finishing this game. You know, we hadn't really finished a game like this in a while, but having his legs, having his physicality and all that made a big difference in this one. So we know, you know, how capable he is in a lot of different areas, and he is the leader of this team, and, you know, the guys believe in him, and, you know we can win every game with Will Howard. And so I think the more and more he's in this offense, the more and more he feels what it's like to be the Ohio State quarterback, the better. But at the end of the day, it's about winning the game, and he did that, and he's a winner. So, again, a lot to come out of the game, a lot to learn from, and you know, we have to play cleaner. But, you know, we love his fire, we love his competitiveness, we love his composure. The guys believe in him, and he can make a lot of throws.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, what is Zen's status if he does return this week, next week, future time? How does that prompt you to just evaluate your left side of the line?
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, right now we're going to stick with what we have. If Zen were to become available, then that would give us more options. You know, I don't think he'll be available this week. He is getting better, so we'll kind of see how he is and have an update later in the week. But I think right now the focus will be to stick with what we got right now, because we feel like there was good synergy coming out of that game.
And final questions, Tim May. Oh, I got you, Stephen. Tim May, Letterman Row.
You want him to go next?
No.
Okay. Hey, Ryan, was there a drive? Obviously, the last drive was guttural to the nth degree, but was there a drive Saturday where you looked out there and go, "This is what I envisioned when I brought in Chip Kelly and Will Howard, et cetera," where you just felt like things were under control, so to speak? It was kind of what you envisioned this offense being about.
Yeah, I would say the responses after the interception, you know, we kind of went out there without, you know, any hesitation and just started rolling pretty good. And the combination of run, pass, and play action and all that was really what we're looking for. And you know, I think the perimeter blocking, you know, has got to be better. You know, that we left a lot on the field because of some of those perimeter blocks, and so, you know, we're going to work hard to get that fixed. But yeah, I think the response that we had after the interception for a touchdown, there was just a confidence level that I think, you know, had an effect on the whole entire game, really, to respond like that. And then the other drive, we got down there and threw the touchdown to Brandon Innes. I mean, there was good run pass mix there. I do think if we connected on a couple of those, you know, shots, because that still has to be a part of our game, then, you know, you feel a little bit different coming out. Obviously, the ball coming out on the 1 yard line, that was a good drive as well. I mean, the block that Travion had, I mean, no one's going to talk about that because we fumbled on a play, but man, it was a great play. So I think there was good run pass, and we were efficient, you know, enough to win the game, but we need to be more efficient.
To see those guys, like you said, Quinshon and Travion selling out.
Yeah.
I mean, that just tells you everybody gets it. Well, you know,
But that's the mentality. Yeah, the mentality was right in the game, and it's got to be continue to be. That's what we got to start every week. That's the mentality. But, you know, you want the scoreboard to look different, then execute better. Yeah.
And final question, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Just given where the depth is right now, probably have to ask, where are George and Ian more in terms of their level of development right now? If something else were to happen at tackle?
Yeah. I mean, they're ready. They're working hard. They're getting the reps in practice, and you know, they got to stand ready. They got to, you know, and then sometimes it's not always easy to be that guy who's one snap away but hasn't really been in the game much. So, you know, if it's appropriate, we'll try to get them in the game to get them, you know, some game reps. But they need to keep coming. They need to get the reps in practice and be prepared, because you just never know how it's going to shake.
And you were talking about this on the radio show yesterday. Who communicated to you guys that Abdul was clearly trying to figure out your guys' snap count that made you guys want to switch some things up there, and you called him when he?
Oh, he's, you know, no, there was nothing like in terms of communication. He's a great player who tries to get a jump on the ball. You could see that on film. And so, you know, we came over, you know, there's a timeout, and we just said, you know, in this third down, there's an opportunity to get maybe, you know, a free one here. And so, you know, we don't typically use a bunch of cadences when it comes to silent count, but the guys were disciplined enough to use the double head bob, and that was enough to get a first down, which turned out to be pretty big. And anytime you get those first downs like that, it was big. But we had everybody over on the sideline, and, you know, we communicated that to Seth, and Seth was great, and the guys, you know, hung in there on it, and it was a big play for us. Yeah.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.